Hello, everybody. This is Dai Turbo's Getting Dirty with Everything. Again, this episode is going to be all about pretty much everything to do with the virus and also what's going on in the world in general. Unless you've been underneath a rock, you will see that there was chaos in America late last night or out there in the evening, and they stormed the parliamentary building where Biden was getting elected in as in the full-blown official president. As we can see right away around the world that there are divisions, major divisions. The virus have only enhanced this, but basically there has been so much chaos right away around the world. There is big problems in the country that supposedly is the heart and soul of people's conscience, which is America. They've got some serious issues. Of course, they're going to have their scapegoat, which they're going to blame Trump. Trump is not as bad as people make him out to be. I always ask this question where everybody seems to side with one another and pinpoint the blame on one direct person. I always take a stop and look and ask, well, is that true? You know, is there something more sinister behind? Trump himself has done a lot of good for America and for the world. He's opened the eyes up. He's opened the eyes up for a lot of people who were quite one-dimensional in thinking. Now a lot of people are starting to look around them and thinking, what is really going on? Now, conspiracists will be attacked at every opportunity, and I got no issues with that. Am I a conspiracist? Well, I'm a skeptic. I look around me, I judge things and I judge people by my environment. I look around me and I use my senses. I don't look at news. I don't determine anymore by what's on the internet, what's on the news. I determine by what's around me. If something feels to me like it isn't right, I usually go with that feeling. I usually believe that gut feeling is far more important than having evidence. And I don't think there's anybody in the world right now that can look around them and say that definitely change is in the air. Whether it's from the virus or everything that's going out in America with Black Lives Matter and all these poor black people getting shot and the divisions that Trump supposedly have caused, but I think basically Trump have just opened them up. I think basically Donald Trump is the tin opener, the can opener. He has exposed the dark depths that have been going on in America for quite some time. Now, with conspiracists, I'll say this. What do people expect from you when you know your government, whatever country you're living in, your government is lying, your government is corrupt? Are you going to still believe what they say, knowing full well that they're liars? No, I don't think so. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to look for an alternative way of thinking. You're going to look for what you think is the real truth. Officially, you're never going to get to the real truth. You've got to be in a situation, you've got to be in a certain place to know what's going on. Shh, dog. I do apologize. Georgie. And the fact of the matter is, you will never ever get to the bottom. But we all know one thing. I live by two rules of thumb, and this is plain and simple. One is the world is corrupt. There's always going to be this fight, this balance fight between good and evil, rich and poor, right and wrong. It's never going to change. It's handed down through the history books. It's in the Bible. The Bible is very brutal. You know, you have a look at the killings, the mutilation, all the evil that goes on in the Bible. It's not a good read, really. Some people call it's a great story. It isn't really. So you look at all that and you realize that this is not just happening now. The difference is it have happened before. Global takeovers, one rule by one nation thinking it can rule everything. It happened in the Pharaoh time. These people were, you know, a lot of people are starting to believe that the Pharaohs were from another planet and stuff because they could they could handle technology that we haven't got now. And I'm starting generally to really start to believe that, because there was something not right about this race of people. We go further into the future to the modern times, and of course, the one thing that, if you're a conspiracist and you believe about this Agenda 21, and you believe that we're heading to a global takeover where we're all under control by people, by one nation, whether it be the Chinese or whether a combination of people or the Americans. If you believe that, then anybody that goes against you, you can turn around and say this. Well, I personally myself think three things are going to happen. Either I'm wrong in what I'm saying, and I pray to God I'm wrong, because the footage I've seen on YouTube and all the other channels, what I feel in my heart is going on at the moment. If it comes true in the next couple of years, our lives are not going to be worth living. We are just going to be cannon fodder. We're going to be like ants around the queen ant. We're going to mean nothing. Our lives are going to mean nothing. It's just work, sleep. We're going to be under control. Mind control, the whole lot. It's all coming in. All the technology that you've seen in your B movies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, Star Trek, Star Wars, it's all now starting to come true. And believe me when I say this, America and the likes of China have got technology far more advanced than what we would ever imagine and we could ever comprehend. So, three things is going to happen. Either I'm proven wrong, and I pray to God I am, and this is not real, and we go back to some sort of normality in the next 2 to 3 years, because with a virus spiking, as we all knew it was, everywhere around the world, and in Britain, it's spiking again, and I'll come to another situation now with that. You can wipe out this year. Nothing is going to get better this year, and I'd be very surprised if it gets better next year. So I'm either proven wrong, or we are going to the Agenda 21, which is a globalization, actual one world order, or the new world order, as they say, where you could have one rule by one organization, the super rich, the famous 1%ers, and we call them. And they call the 1%ers because they are not 1% of the world that owns all the money. They're basically the 1%ers because it all generalizes to an absolute minimum of people that have got all this power and all this money, and that should, as anybody got an ounce of brain cells in them, knows that is, people shouldn't have that kind of power, billion and trillionaires. When you've got poor, starving people in Africa, India, and in my own country, we've got our own level of poverty, and believe me, I've been in that poverty bracket. I've not rich, I got nothing in the bank. I've been at that level. So if this doesn't happen, then the third option is with everything that's going out in China, and believe me, there's a lot going out in China, and there's certainly a lot going out in America. Are we starting to build up to the next big war? World War III. Now, everybody instantly got this impression that World War III is basically going to be a nuclear war. My impression of that is no, it's not going to be a nuclear war, because mankind have got this sick, twisted attitude about it, where it enjoys hurting and punishing people. Pressing a few buttons and destroying countries and destroying the world is not going to be good enough for mankind. The powers that be like to hurt people. They like to see people suffer. It's going to be instant, the nuclear bomb. So basically, the nuclear bomb is put on this earth by people, by different organizations, by, all these Russian and American, China, basically to create the stability that they need while they're working out their next strategy. My personal opinion is it's going to be a war that's done through what's going on now, through biological stuff, by germs, and then once they weaken us, then they go in for the full attack. So what I say to these people that go on to conspiracists and say, you load of rubbish, you don't believe this, you don't believe that, and you've got to have evidence and all that, we're told by law you have to have evidence, and I don't believe that. I believe sometimes a gut feeling. I sometimes believe that what you think is enough. You haven't got to protest to other people what you believe if you haven't got evidence. But in your heart, if you feel that something is not what it seems, you can't sit back and just ignore that. You've got to go with it. You've got to investigate. And I've done enough investigating, and I'm not a very clever person. I suffer with dyslexia. There's a lot I know, there's a lot I don't know. But it's dyslexia over the years that have made me not a trust authority. I mean, by 21, I was anti-establishment. The royal family, corrupt. Politicians, corrupt. Wherever they go, as far as I'm concerned, my attitude is if these people are talking, they're lying. They're not here to give us a better life. Why would billionaires want to make things better for working class, ordinary and poor people? Why would they take a pay cut in their wages, in their crazy wages that goes into their accounts to help us? They got control by fear, by keeping us down, by keeping us weak. And this virus, I certainly believe, is weakening people mentally and physically, and then taking us into the next big event, which they reckon will happen. The start of it really happens this year, and then the big global takeover where you know that you've been had will come in 9 years' time, 2030. So you got all this going on. So what I say to people is this: I say, hey, believe what you want, but look around you, look at the environment. Something isn't right about all this. The facts, the figures, and I'm not going to go into most of the facts and figures again today because you keep going repeating yourself over and over again with this. But something doesn't ring true. So I say to these people, well, say I'm wrong, but talk to me in 2 years' time and tell me that I'm wrong then. And I hope I am wrong. For the first time in my life, I want to be wrong on this because I do not like the thought of what could well happen. Because within the next 10 to 20 years, I'm pretty convinced that they'll have technology, if they haven't already got it, where they'll actually be able to see what we're thinking and stuff. And it's scary. So anyway, there's a lot going on out in America, and they're all blaming Trump, of course. Trump is not happy, and he has the right to be, because there is evidence out there of corruption in the electoral system, as there is in this country. Unfortunately, in the great country, there's Great Britain, we don't seem to have enough of a backbone these days to protest and call these people out. And if you notice, just like in America, Britain is running quite parallel to America these days, with its thoughts of, well, the fact that media isn't asking the questions that the common man wants to ask. I mean, if I was an ordinary person, can sit down with one of the top MPs or maybe the Prime Minister, I wouldn't be asking the questions that the media is asking. Because the first question I would be asking is this: we're going into our third lockdown now. It's going to last right away through probably till March, April time at least. When are these people going to admit? When are these people going to learn? When are these people going to see that these lockdowns do not work? They'll keep everybody suppressed. Medium to small businesses go under completely. They won't recover. They won't come back. Pub trade in this country has been dying for years, which I believe is done deliberate. They want that. And I believe now the final nail in the coffin of Great Britain has just been put into place and ready for the hammer. All year now, we're going in, by another 6 to 8 weeks, we will be going into a full year, and nothing has changed. Nothing's got better. So when are these people going to put their hands up and say, well, what we're doing clearly isn't working? And then they got the famous track, trace, and vaccination. What is in this vaccination? Now, scientists say that they've been looking for these vaccinations for some of these diseases, for common colds and whatever, for decades. They've tested people for years. These people have come up with a vaccination in the space of 9 months that suppresses and destroys this virus. And we're supposed to think that by injecting this virus that it's going to make us better. Well, the answer to that is I'm very skeptical, because one, put all conspiracies aside, would you want somebody injecting you with something, one, you don't know what's in it, and two, there is no solid evidence of any side effects of long-term damage? So one way or the other, we could end up with serious ill health in the next couple of years. But of course, if you're the opposition to what I say now, you will turn around and say you shouldn't be saying that because you're going to cause people to not have the injection. And it's important that they have the injection because it makes them better. Well, I'm afraid they'll have to have me kicking and screaming, because there's no way in hell am I going to have any injection put into me that could kill me off. If they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me. But they're not going to kill me by me handing them my arm. It's not going to happen. They could starve me to death, they could do whatever they want. But they are not going to put no injection in me. And then they'll turn around and say, well, you won't be able to travel. You won't be able to go to stores and buy your food and stuff because nobody will trust you. So you'll be technically classed as a leper. So basically what they're doing is they are forcing you to have this injection. So we'll see where we go with that, because if the conspiracists are right, then they will in the next few months show this. They will say, well, you don't have the injection, you can't do this, you can't have that, we'll stop your benefits, we'll do all this different stuff. Well, then they're forcing you. So then they're confirming exactly what I believe. It doesn't matter who you are, you've got to be anywhere around the world, you've got to be looking at this and thinking, there's something just not right about all this. This is all happening too quickly and all happening at the same time. Chaos in America, all this trouble everywhere you go. All this stuff that's going on behind the scenes in China, I believe China is gearing up for either a takeover or a war. And usually when somebody goes to war, it usually means that they do want to take over somebody else. It's quite logical to think that the two biggest powers in the world, America and China, would think, well, we've got all this intelligence, we've got all this money, we've got all this wealth, we're the biggest countries in the world. Why isn't it right and fitting for us to take over the globe? I mean, as we know, that there's a big agenda behind the scenes for them to have a one-nation army in Europe, and that's why they didn't want Britain to leave. So there is a lot going on. Now, I don't want to be talking about this all the time on every episode of Dai Turbo's Getting Dirty with Everything, because my whole entire position of doing this is to try and create a bit of a spin on everything and try and uplift people by making a joke of things, which is what I've spent my whole life doing. But unfortunately, sometimes there's so much heavy stuff going on in the world that you can't just sit down and ignore it. But I've changed the subject slightly a little bit because I find some things really amusing and nobody notices. Listening to Radio 5 this morning, Priti Patel, there's a lovely name in it, Pretty. There's nothing pretty about this woman, she's a bully. This woman, Priti Patel, was on the news and she was asked a lot of questions. And one of the questions she was asked was saying that, are they restricting people now to come from other countries? And she said, yes. You cannot travel out of this country unless you have a very good reason. So why is on the beach Jet2 Holidays and all the other major companies, TUI or whatever they call TUC, why are these agencies advertising holidays for the summer, knowing full well that you really can't go on them? Jet2 Holidays are advertising is so ironic and so hysterical. They're saying, Jet2 Holidays, all holidays, £100 off your holiday if you book now. Thousands of child places. Yeah, I bet there is. I bet there's thousands of adult places as well. We are in take everything at face value. We are in the middle of a pandemic like nobody have seen before, something that has totally engulfed the world. And we got agencies being optimistic, saying, yeah, we'd like you to go on holidays, trip to Bulgaria, trip to Turkey, trip to Spain, wherever, Orlando, Florida. We've got people dropping like flies. 70-odd thousand now in the great NHS have died into our safety NHS. Georgie, do apologies, it's live. So these people, I just don't understand how they can still run a business and still expect people to fly out for a holiday in the middle of something that's going on that we've never experienced in our lives before. And the fact that, who in their right mind in the middle of a pandemic is going to think, I really need a holiday. We all need an holiday after what we've been through. But the fact of the matter is we can't. So I don't understand why these people are advertising the way they're advertising on the telly. And they're still saying, at all protected. At all protected. I don't know what kind of insurance you might be able to get and go to Spain at the moment. And if you get the virus and you end up dying out there, that covers you. And I'm pretty sure that they won't cover you for coronavirus. So there's some crazy things going on. The other thing what I want to do with this show is I'm going to try and not drag it on too long because I don't want my voice to sound any more boring than it is being out of work at the moment for the second time in my working career for different reasons. A lot of it to do with mental health. We're going to have a little chat about that on another episode coming up soon. I've been scouring the internet for different things, some hysterical things to watch and some interesting things. Now, Netflix has a series, some famous European guy has come out with, based on novels, has come out with these 3 films that's on Netflix at the moment. The one is called, the first one is called The Secret Guardian. It's set in Spain. It's basically, the 3 films are connected for a couple of reasons. One, with this woman that's investigating it, will go back to her own town in Spain. It's dubbed, but it's very good dubbed. It's an amazing series. These 3 films, they're on for about 6.5 hours, just over 2 hours of film, and they're riveting. The scenery is fantastic. The unfortunate thing is I've never seen any films in my life where you constantly see the amount of rains. The rains in these films is horrendous. I mean, they're flooded out in one scene. So anyway, these films are all about investigating these different series of murders and suspicious deaths that's all connected to different things, the occult and some madman and the serial killer, and it's all interconnected with these 3 films. The first one is called The Secret Guardian, as I've just said. The second one is, hold on a second, The Summing Bones. Hold on. A second. The third one, anyway, is called The Offering of a Stone. Anyway, there's 3, and I've seen all 3 over the Christmas period, and I can tell you something now. In my younger days, I was not much into thrillers. I was an action and comedy person myself. I like action, comedy, and horror. I've got into thrillers now, and I got to be honest now, these 3 films are absolutely fantastic. They are, they're Oscar winning. I think that the intensity in the films and the storyline, and it keeps you riveted right the way to the end, and they're all connected, which means if you watch the first, you've got to watch the last to find out exactly what happens at the end. So cleverly done. There's a name for these people, or this guy, Barats or something it's called anyway, but you'll know if you see it on Netflix. And it is absolutely dynamite. If you're a big hardcore horror fan and you're into all the gore, like Hostel and stuff like that, which I think was quite mild for me, to be perfectly honest, there's a film on Amazon called Lasso. It's a strange film. It's your typical horror film. It's nobody special in the film, but the film is set where this elderly few people are getting escorted by this guy and this girl, to an old-fashioned rodeo. What they don't realize is these rodeo people are injecting themselves with some sort of stimulant to make themselves more aggressive and strong, and go on rampage, killing everybody in sight. The gore and the killings in these films leave absolutely nothing to the imagination. It's probably one of the most goriest films I've ever seen, and it is absolutely brilliant to watch. It's well worth a watch if you're a horror fan. Watch it, enjoy it. It's full on. It's sick in a few places. It really is. I mean, it's a video nasty, but it's fun. So you got that one to watch. I've been catching up with a lot of older stuff and all that as well. I never seen when it first come around. Still Game, set about two Scottish old men and their little antics while they retired. The series 1 to 9, I've seen all series, all 1 to 9 over the last 2.5, 3 months, and I've never seen something as funny. It's up there with Only Fools and Horses and the likes. It is hysterical. The two guys playing this, they're brilliant. I've seen some footage of some other stuff they're doing done in the past during the fat. Absolutely hysterical. If you want something to lift you up during these crazy times, then that's worth doing. You got the Jamaican Countdown. The Jamaicans doing their version of Countdown. It's only on a couple of minutes. It's absolutely hysterical. It's really so funny. It's brilliant. It's fight on for about 4.5, 5 minutes, and it's hysterical. I've had a little bit of a disappointment. I've been looking out all the other big series I want to talk about that come out 3 years ago, and I missed it. And then by some slight chance, I picked up on it 2 years ago. BBC 3 years ago showed the TV series that I didn't know at the time it was out. TV series of Romper Stomper. If you've ever seen your film, it's very controversial. It came out in 1991, I think it was. Eric Bana, set in Australia, and it's about these group of militant people who just are fed up of other people coming from other countries and taking over Australia. So they become quite racist and sort of bit like Trump, sort of all for their own people. And they decide to go on a rampage and go around killing Chinese and all these different people. Well, they created a spin-off series nearly 20 years later. And I watched this, and I'm waiting for the second series, which I think have still yet to come out. Now, this series, it's on our episode, thereabouts, and it's on for about 9 or 10 episodes. I can tell you it's one of the best TV programs I've ever seen on any TV. See, it is unbelievable. It's controversial. It gets your mind thinking, even if you're not a racist, which I'm not. It's still sort of, it's provocative. It gets your mind starting to think. You think differently when you watch the series. Well worth a watch. You can get it anyway. You can get it on YouTube, and I'm telling you something that was riveting. It's one of those programs where you watch the first episode, you've got to watch the second, then you've got to watch the third. Best TV series. I put things in genres, and I got a list of my top 10 favorite all-time programs, and now very much fitting in the number 1 slot is the spin-off from the legendary cult following 80s film The Karate Kid, Cobra Kai. Last year I watched the first 2 series, and I've never seen anything better on British TV or any TV. It's on 35 minutes. There's about 10, 15, 20 episodes for the whole entire series, and it's absolutely fantastic. Every episode is brilliant. It's non-stop, great action, uplifting, very retro. Ralph Marciano is the bad guy in it now in a weird way, even though he thinks he's doing right. And of course, the guy that plays the bad guy in the original film, he's sort of more like the one that's trying to learn from his mistakes. What I'm getting at basically is Series 3 is now out. Now, YouTube and YouTube Red done the first 2 series. So I scoured yesterday looking for this Series 3, and I find out that it's now on Netflix. So I put it on Netflix to have a look, and I thought, well, I don't have Netflix every single month, only when I want to watch something that I'm desperate to see. So I put it on to see if I could have the free trial, and there is no free trial anymore. They've got rid of that as from last month. So I'll have to wait a couple of months before I go to Netflix to watch that, but I'm looking forward to seeing Series 3, and they're already talking about now Series 4. Series 3, apparently, I've seen the comments, it is as good as Series 1 and 2. It is brilliant. They even got the old guy that was the bad guy in the original, the trained Cobra Kai in it. It's spot on. The program is fantastic. I think it's a credit to American TV that they brought this out. If Netflix has paid for this Series 3 to be done, then I commend them for that. It is fantastic. I got to be honest, since Netflix and Prime has taken over and done their own films and stuff, I've seen a lot of their own material, and I got to be honest, they're faultless. Everything I've seen that Netflix have produced or directed, and the same Prime has been absolutely brilliant, dog, and well worth seeing anything that they got. I mean, they're taking over everything, and they deserve, because certainly in Britain, British TV is now, I don't even watch mainstream TV anymore. I don't know why invest in it. There's nothing I want to see. I don't want to see anybody dancing on ice in the middle of January. I don't want to see people dancing around the dance floor in December. And I certainly don't want to see celebrities getting kicked out of some Australian jungle eating frogs and snails. I don't want to see none of that nonsense. So I don't watch. So everything I watch now is all on the internet and all on the computer. So some great stuff. So like I said, back to the virus, when these people going to learn, they're saying that there's hope at the end of the tunnel, there's light at the end of the tunnel. By March, April, things, well, let's see what happens in April, and then when things doesn't change, let's see what the plan is then. So I'm going to keep you up to date. I'm going to do the next one now, Monday and Friday, hopefully, and try and scour the weekend, different things. Not in a happy mood today because Man United didn't turn up for a big game, the semi-final, fourth semi-final in 18 months now that they've lost. There's no passion in that side whatsoever. They certainly ain't the team that they was. And I think it's about time now in football that some of these teams where the players are not given a performance that their paycheck certainly is, I think they ought to have their pay cut, because these players are getting paid 80, 90,000 pounds plus a week, and they just relax when they play. So I don't believe that these players should be getting half of what they're getting, a fraction in fact. Poor Pogba, time for that guy to go. I think real time for him to go. So I'll come back to you Monday afternoon sometime, and I'll try and scour, give you some new advice, and let's see what happens, what develops over the weekend. Very sad this year that 4 people lost their lives in that skirmish out in America last night. Of course, Trump will take the full blame for that. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, because I think there's going to be some sort of something's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks out there. I think Trump, they're going to have to force him out, I think, because he's determined to stay. So this is episode 2 of Dai Turbo's Getting Dirty with Everything. And I hope I haven't bored you to death. Of course, click your like or subscribe and all that stuff if you like it. We'll come back to you next week with some more nonsense and try and make sense of everything that's going on. You all take care, have a nice weekend, and stay warm.